Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Neil. How are you?
Fantastic. And you know what? You remember this song, don't you, Greg? Play that funky music. I know you do, for sure. And our guest today is Bryan Bassett, and Bryan's a guitarist and much, much more. Bryan, thanks for stopping by, man. How are you?
Great, glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Greg, you like me. You're really into music, aren't you, Greg? That's one of your things.
I love music. I remember listening to FogHat when I was a kid. I used to go visit my grandmother, West Palm Beach, and my great uncle owned a pool hall that had pinball machines and jukebox, and we used to play "Fool for the City," "Slow Ride." I mean, it was just all the greatest. Just some of the best memories I had. In the '70s, listening to that stuff. It was just amazing.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
Yeah.
When you think about that, did you think when you started out, did you always want to be a musician, Bryan?
I started out, I went to Central Catholic High up there.
Oh, well, I went to Central for 1 year, and then I ended up going to Sarah.
So I played football there for a couple of years, and I was, pretty much into the athletics. I ran a little track, and not quite as fast as I was supposed to, but, but we had fun. And, but then I think around that time, it's probably like 68, 69, when all those great, classic albums came out, and that really turned my head for music. I got a guitar around that time. I think everybody in my neighborhood got a guitar or a drum or something. There was a lot of, basement bands playing Louie Louie and Gloria, and and that was the beginning of it. I started taking some lessons, and when I got out of high school, club scene in Pittsburgh was unbelievable then. When I moved to Florida some years later, I was so disappointed. I was so spoiled with the Pittsburgh club scene. We were playing 5 nights a week, 4 hours a night, and pretty much a great place to learn your craft, as far as being a musician. There were so many great bands. Everybody was playing original music, the Iron City House Rockers, with the Joe Shecky and Billy Price, and the Silencers, Norm Nardini. I mean, it was just a lot of great music, come in Pittsburgh at that time, and really through the years, but really in that era. And clubs had a cover charge, so you could actually make a half decent living playing in the clubs, So yeah, I loved it, and I got bit early on. Of course, like a lot of guitar players my age, the Ed Sullivan Show, really sparked that early interest in music, with all the great bands, British invasion bands that were on the TV. And yeah, that was the beginning of it. And I actually started making money at it, and that kept me doing it. So, and then, set 1975, 76 was my Wild Cherry years. And, when I joined the band, and really we had a big hit record right off the bat. It was unbelievable, really, and Rob Parisi was from Steubenville, Ohio, but we played mostly in the Pittsburgh area, but with tri-state, we're down to West Virginia, all the way over to Cleveland, and it was a great time for me, and and really to have that big of a success. Well, this is like 50 years later, but when your first record's a #1 record, you go, hey, this recording thing's pretty easy, But 50 years later, you're still trying to hit the charts. But there you go.
How many #1s have you had?
Just that one. Wild Cherry charted 5 songs altogether, but in the top 100. But only that first one, was the one that really did it for us. And we were managed by the Belkin brothers, which were big concert promoters, not unlike the Caesar Ingler in Pittsburgh. Up in Cleveland was the Belkin brothers, and they were a national agency that did concerts, and so we were able to get with that hit record, we opened up for so many great R&B bands, just about everybody, from we did shows on the last Jackson 5 tour, the Commodores, Earth, Wind and Fire, Average White Band, the list goes on of the acts that we were able to perform with. So that was, for a young musician, it was a really great time for me.
Wow. And so you think about the people you met, I guess, from that first hit that kind of put you on the map, the band. Did you guys expect that to happen? Was that like just such a surprise when you thought?
It was a pretty big surprise, I got to say. We were playing the clubs. Of course, this is vinyl era still. I think cassettes were still a new thing then. But we wanted to get a 45 into the local jukeboxes to jack up our price a couple $100, and we went up to Cleveland recording, and that's where we cut it on our own dime. We paid for the session ourselves. And just in the hopes of getting a record deal. We didn't have a company at that point, and to get a single press so we could get something in the local jukeboxes. And but Carl Midori was a guy that worked for Sweet City Records based out of Cleveland. They were looking for funk acts, and we fit the bill. They happened to come into the studio and heard the song, and before you know it, we were on Epic Records, which was Sweet City was a subsidiary of Epic Records. And then the Balkans got us out touring, and it sort of blew up from there.
Wow, that's incredible. How I was always curious, like how many takes does it take to get like the one that you make the final cut that makes it to the public on, like when you're doing
that song, I think, was the second take. We only did like 2 or 3 cuts of it, and because we were playing it live for some time in the clubs, so we were well rehearsed. And so when we went into the studio, we pretty much just knocked it out. I think it took longer to mix the song than it did for us to record it. So Ken Hammond was the owner of the studio, and we had tried mixing it for a couple of days and trying all these fancy stuff, and Ken's like, get out of the way, let me do it. Finally, he put it all together in about a half hour, and that's the here, So, but yeah, we went down really quick. We were very well rehearsed when we went into the studio then.
So, Greg, I have a question for Greg. FogHat, is that so? How did you discover really the band, Greg? Just listening to music, or just like
at the Carefree Billiard Hall in West Palm Beach, Florida? That was it, right in the jukebox.
There you go.
That was it.
Really? So you were visiting
70, right? 75, 76 were big years for FogHat too. And in fact, we used to follow them around in the arenas. I'd be on the, opening for somebody, Isley Brothers or Average White Band tour, and then but FogHat would be right, the week before us or the week after us. So, and I had played as a cover band in Pittsburgh. I played a lot of FogHat songs, coming up. So I was real familiar with them. Didn't meet them till many years later, but I was aware of them as well. They were a big band. Great songs for the clubs band to play.
Yeah, Bachman Turner Overdrive back then.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Good
sure.
stuff. Yeah.
Kind of describe FogHat's music for us.
I'd say English blues rock, and then they were always called a boogie band because they always had like an up tempo kind of dance thing, not really dance, but just sort of rock and roll dance kind of feel. And I think that's because they were Lonesome Dave and Rod, they were all influenced by John Lee Hooker quite a bit, who had the boogie, it was the John Lee Hooker's handle. And so that kind of music, made its way into that combined with English blues rock.
Okay.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How I think so many musicians my age actually learned about American blues artists by delving into the records of the British invasion bands coming over, and John Mayall and Savoy Brown, FogHat, Led Zeppelin, pretty much every rock band of that era were using American blues songs and influences to make their records. And when you're looking at it, you're like, hey, who's this Albert King guy, or who's this guy? And you start, BB King, Freddie King, all the Kings. But then as a guitar player, you start delving into their influences, and so they really fed us back our own history musically.
Wow. What was your favorite band back in the 70s that you like to listen to?
I liked Fleetwood Mac. I was a big Peter Green fan from when he played with John Mayall. I listened to all the John Mayall guitar players. They were my influences. Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, and I was a huge Cream fan when they hit it. Of course, loved Hendrix. He wasn't as much an influence on me because really I couldn't play like him. So I sort of went more with the blues guys. I think Clapton was probably the biggest influence on me playing wise in those days. So that was it. I just got into the blues rock groove. Savoy Brown, funny enough, that's where FogHat came from. 3 of the members of Savoy Brown became FogHat. But they had some great instrumentals there and just guitar oriented songs that as a club band, they were great to play, in the beer halls and all. You could do a 20-minute song, and have a lot of guitar soloing and jamming. And so that kind of music was great for the clubs.
Now, when I think about specifically enough, how does certain music live on? FogHat music, and then also, going back to play that funky music and all that stuff. Is it crazy when you see new generations listening to your music?
Yeah, it's great. And it's all about the song, I guess, and I think people's memory of what they were doing, just like you were saying with in the pool hall, people's memories of that great time of your life when you're having fun, and certain songs are like the soundtrack to your life. I always say with Play That Funky Music, we made the wedding circuit, so you can hardly go to a wedding after party and not hear, We Are Family, and brick house, and Play That Funky Music, and when everybody's dancing at the wedding party. So that's that kind of thing keeps your song alive in people's lives, like I guess. And yeah, so it's just nice to be associated with a song that had such longevity.
And you're playing in a band now? Do you have a band?
I do, sure. I've been in the lead guitarist of FogHat for 28 years altogether. Starting in, I played with Lonesome Dave. When I relocated to Florida, I worked in a blues recording studio as a session guitarist and producer engineer for King Snake Records, and for some years there. And I met Lonesome Dave in Orlando, Florida, when he had returned from England and moved there. We became friends, and he asked me to start touring with him, and that's when I got into the FogHat family. So that was '89. I played with him from '89 to '92.
Wow.
Then I joined Molly Hatchet, Southern rock band. I played with them from '92 to '99, and then I was asked back to FogHat in 2000, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, that's great.
Latest projects happening with FogHat. Update us.
We have a brand new record coming out. It's going to drop on November 10th. It's called Sonic Mojo. I think it's our 17th studio album. We have quite a few live albums too. One we just released, it was called 8 Days on the Road. That came out during the pandemic. That's what kept me busy during the 2020 when everybody was off the road doing nothing. I was in the studio working on that live album. I do most of the producing and engineering for all the FogHat projects, for the last 20 years. So that's our new thing coming out. We're adding the new songs to the set. We have a couple record release parties, one in New York, one in Los Angeles in November. And so that's what we're trying to get the word out about that. And I think we have 2 singles released now. One's called Driving On, and one's called A Little Bit of Everything. Those are actually available as pre-releases, and we just hope people get a chance to hear it.
Well, that's great. In the concerts, your audience mostly boomers or all gens now, or?
It's pretty much all gens. We had some songs, particularly Slow Ride. FogHat was one of the first songs you had to play on the Guitar Hero game when that came out some years ago, and all of a sudden we had these like preteens and young teens coming up to our autograph table, with their plastic guitars from the game and having us sign them and stuff, because I think that was the first song you had to get through to move on with the game. So all of a sudden we have these new fans, and we do a lot of city festivals, a lot of outdoor all age shows. So now we see sort of like 3 generations, our original, fans, which are pretty much grandparents now, and their kids, and who got raised up on their parents' record collection, and now their kids. So coming out to the shows.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I think that when you're talking a record, are we talking record, or is that how you're saying it? Like, is it?
Well, actually, a couple years ago, that would just be something I said because everything was digital and CD. But now vinyl's a big thing. We're going to do a pretty big run of vinyl, 180 gram purple vinyl, in a full album size. So actually saying an album is relevant again.
And so it's become a good gimmick to sell at shows then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And people were back collecting. I have my college age daughters. I was gonna give away my record collection, which I have 500 or 600 records, to my friend that owns a record store. My daughter's like, no, we want them. So I had to go into my storage locker and dig out my old turntable and my old power amps, and now my daughter's room looks like mine did in 1972.
So I guess, Brian, disco's not dead. We're not getting rid of records, then disco's not dead either, then, right?
Hey, people will always dance. I don't care what you call it.
Exactly. All right, Greg has a question he asked every one of our celebrities. Go ahead, Greg, with your question.
All right, Brian. So this is for me and for my listeners, right? And it's really important to help us all develop from what you've benefited from in your career and your success. So, Brian, what's the most important thing in life you feel you've ever learned?
Be yourself, just believe in yourself. I think I taught at college for some time, and that's the thing I tried to convey to my students the most, is that success is not as far away as you might think. I'm taught at Daytona State College, a small town, and you don't have to go. You can go to Nashville, you can go to New York, you can go to LA to chase your dreams, if particularly in the music industry. But everything can be done as long as you believe in yourself. That's it. Find your passion, follow it, get some good instruction in the music business, get some good legal advice. But that's what I would say is the most important thing, is self-confidence, and finding a passion of what you, as my dad would say, find what you would do for free and then try to figure out how to make a living out of it.
And that's a great point that a lot of people are unhappy about. They're not doing something they love. That's a great, great.
When you get to my age, I'm going to be 70 next year, so I've been able to play my guitar my whole life. And there's been obviously ups and downs, and in your financial world, but when you do something you love, and like you said, and you would do it for free. I mean, my wife, and my friends say, "Are you ever going to retire?" And I go, "Well, what would I do? I get together with my friends and play music." That's sort of what I do every day. So
yeah, doing your passion.
That kind of thing is important when you look back at your life and you enjoyed it and done what you love, and hopefully created something. And in music, hopefully I entertained a few people along the way.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Great information. Best place people can find information on FogHat and pick up the record today. Where can they go? Again, it launches in November.
Yep, foghat.com has everything, all your FogHat needs. So
I got to look into these vinyls. It's amazing. We're going into Web 3.0 and certain things, but we're going back to vinyls. You got your cassette tapes too. Greg, are they bringing back cassette tapes? I just found my wrestling tapes, by the way. So stay tuned on that one. So
what about 8-tracks? I mean,
8-tracks too. It's bringing 8-tracks back too.
We never find some of those at every concert. Someone will come up with an old 8-track.
Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate it, guys. All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Take care, guys.